I criticize capitalists or hardcore capitalist ambassadors that they do not practice capitalism within their families and within their circles of loved ones. They only practice capitalism to who they deem strangers, etc. Because when we speak about Ubuntu or some other form of communal living, it's that. But now it's living in a space where we've been pumped full of capitalistic ideas that I must be wealthy alone. First black, wealthiest African, it's individual. It is weirdly on the other side where you see certain black families that are deemed wealthy. You'll find on the whiter families it will be and family. In more of the Indian families, it's and sons. Whereas with us, we've made it's me. I'm wealthy instead of no, my family or my people are wealthy.
But
how capitalism?
How good is your money as a wealthy black man when the clinic where your mother and father are collecting their tablets is not fixed and you are drinking bottles of cognac in Sandton? How good is that? Because you're going to be called for a funeral in a few days. So I respect Jacob Zuma much more than I respect the other presidents. And next to Jacob Zuma, I have some respect for Madiba. The rest I can't mention for religious reasons. I mention so why? Because Zuma has got a home. Would rather be spending time arguing as to why did Jacob Zuma build a freeway to Nkandla and create a community and build a home. Madiba built himself a house in Mutata. Whether he built it or other people built it for him, I don't know. My honorable friend, Elder Mbeki, Mutante, and Ramaphosa, I don't know in the whole country here whether their wealth can be felt by the communities that are around them. All we hear is Lipalale, 20 million for a buffalo, and all these things that we cannot touch that. So communism, as if rightly put it, the proper communist is at the core of his family, is Ubuntu. He will create something that himself, his wife, and his children, and is building generational wealth for his family. So the capitalists will abuse everybody else, but secure their own circles.
Correct.
And if we could practice capitalism at that, we'll have reached the zenith of what Donald Trump was saying when he says Africa is a hole. Okay, I can't mention
I'll say it. It's a shithole.
Yeah. And when you say that, Trump is saying America comes first. Bugger everybody else in the world.
Yes.
We don't care about Iran. We don't care about Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and North Korea. My agenda as a president is to make sure that America comes up. America must be great again. That's it. I love Donald Trump in that context.
Yes.
And if Africa would adopt that principle, bugger off the West, bugger the North, bugger the East, Africa comes first. We cascade that down to countries. We cascade that down to individuals. We may actually find that capitalism is socialism upside down. If that makes sense to you. Because then we're being selfish towards ourselves. And by doing so, we're able to develop ourselves from the bottom up. Whereas capitalism is saying abuse everyone else so that it can be well. But if we can develop ourselves from this other angle, Africa has become capitalistic in ideology.
Correct.
But our capitalism is now socialism in implementation, if that makes sense to you. Because Africa then becomes the immediate home. South Africa then becomes the immediate home. Right now we have load shedding here. Why? Because a lot of the fat guys in town here cannot afford to put quality coal into the power stations. They would rather be selling that same coal into China. Go to Richards Bay right now. I'm not joking. I was there. Trucks are packed from Pangeni into the bay. There are mountains of coal that are there. While our own ESCOM
on their way to Germany.
And by the same people in Germany are saying you must not use coal.
In America,
And we are sending the coal there and we have load shedding here. And then you look around and say, but doesn't charity begin at home? For crying out loud, Europe built its civilization on coal. Why are we not being allowed to build our civilization also on coal? And for all practical purposes, hell no. The amount of carbon dioxide Mudupi will produce into the air, it's 0.0% of what America is doing.
Yes.
So
every first world nation has been built on fossil fuels, but we're being told as developing nations that we cannot use.
No, man, it's a lie. And by the way, when they want us to use these modern forms of energy,
renewables,
who is going to be supplying this stuff? Who is going to be maintaining it? We're back to square one again. Go solar, go solar. We'll donate 10 million worth of solar panels. And what. Boom, you have the solar panels. In less than 6 months, they're picking up. Who do you call for services and fixing up of those things and repairs? Look at Zimbabwe. They build up the power stations using British equipment. Kush, wake up one morning, we're on sanctions. Britain says we're no longer doing business with you.
Yeah.
And the equipment is all British. And the spare parts are refusing to come. And money is going to be transferred out of the country. Hey, the government is failing. Of course the government is failing. But can we look closer at the problem and to find right at the core of the thing again? It's the man who sold you an idea. Like what the young man in Niger is doing. In France, you want your uranium? You come here and build the power station here. I love that.
Burkina Faso.
When France misbehaves, we know where the switch is. We can also just go there and do exactly to them what they are doing to us. Now, to me, that's power and that's empowerment. And I wish that even Ramaphosa, if this thing gets to him, stop selling coal to Germany and China, build power here and send those people a final product of the coal itself. And tell me if we can burn all that coal, how much power would we have here? We'll have enough for South Africa, enough for Africa. The rest of it, we can send them to the world. But it doesn't make sense that you have to send products out and then buy them back as final products at 100% of the price that you sell them to.
You speak about Ramaphosa, you spoke about Donald Trump. Our African leaders, unfortunately, have been proven to not put Africa first.
I really look forward one day when I will meet Ramaphosa eyeball to eyeball. I look forward to that day. I'm looking for him.
Are you expecting to see something? Or to
hear
something?
No. I just want to whisper something to him.
Do you think it will work? Do you think you can wake him up?
I don't know how many bullets it takes to kill a man. Not that I want to kill him. I don't know how much information you need to change your mind. But one piece of information could transform a lot of things. I think he has a beautiful opportunity. At the center of the crisis of South Africa, the amount of money that he has as an individual is enough to fix the country's problems. At a critical point where the country is crying for help.
Is that not waiting for Jesus to come back?
I've lost hope in that gentleman. Wherever he is, whenever he's going to come back.
Is this not a similar magical, I hope I can whisper in his ear because maybe one day he'll come back as if he was ever here?
I am saying so to a man who is sitting on resources and who has an access to information and access to a network that we cannot have the country.
But you're assuming he cares.
Maybe that's the weakness. Maybe that's the weakness I have.
You're thinking Jesus will come back?
It's Ubuntu. I hear you. I hear you twice. The Ramaphosa must become the Jesus who saves us. But there's no way right now where I am where I can build a power station and because these are enabling environments that allow the local community to function. I've seen businesses close down and so in that sense, I tend to feel like we may need to get a new breed of young politicians.
It must be politicians.
No, let me say drivers of economy, rather. But politicians, again, in one way or the other, we're going to be needing a place of common convergence. But let the power remain with the people that are at the bottom. But right now, I'm just focusing, maybe I don't apply my mind much to what you're saying. But right now, just focusing at one problem that we have. I would not mind if Ramaphosa and his friends, Ramaphosa and Pravin, with all due respect, just take your money, go to Stellenbosch, speak to Rupert and Oppenheimer, buy Eskom out, own it, but allow people to have services.
Because that's already what you guys want. So
that's what you want. Just get it done with. Get it done with.
But let's.
You want South African Airways? Just buy the thing and put the aeroplanes back on the road. Let people work.
You want Transnet? Sell it to Glencoe. It's fine, but just serve the people.
You will go to meet Malema in court and discuss why you did it and how you did it. That's a conversation for another day. But you cannot squeeze people.
Right now you're throttling the people and they can't breathe.
And this is how you make people revolt. This is how you lose everything that you have. This is how Ceausescu, the guy from Czechoslovakia, who was thrown on the streets and his property is destroyed. And this is exactly what happens. You gather all these things to yourself. Think carefully, Ramaphosa. The day you step out of office, you are going to be in court for the rest of your life to account for these injuries that you've caused along the way. For what it is worth, start looking after the common people. Appease the people. They don't want much.
They don't want much.
They just want to switch on their electricity.
Africans don't want much.
They just want food on their table and allow them to become. But when you begin to tamper with these critical issues of,
you turn them into desperate animals.
And when that day comes, the poor people will eat the rich. I bet you Stellenbosch is not far. We'll eat up those grapes.
Oh, a lot of those guys have already started moving overseas, by the way. And moving their companies, Anglo-American.
And their monies. And who is going to remain? Ramaphosa will remain dealing with this mess post his presidential term.
He might leave, but people will bring him back.
We can
access people now.
Jacob Zuma, they brought him back from Russia, is it? They wanted him back here. And with the democracy that you have in South Africa, I am saying this ahead, and I want you to cut this clip and put it on standby for the next 1 year. You will come back and revisit this clip word for word. If Jacob Zuma took those few years in court, we're going to be seeing something very interesting on Ramaphosa. Because when we start with Ramaphosa, it's going to start way back where it's uncomfortable. We're going to start off with Rustenburg, which has been put on reps right now for managing the anger of the people. We're going to be dealing with all these issues of business deals. I mean, how do you... Pravin has got 52 companies. 52 companies. Shareholding in all of them. Pushing business tenders into those. I've never seen Pravin appearing in court.
These are businesses that compete with the state having to supply.
No, those businesses are the state. Those businesses are delivering what the state needs. He's an arm. He's in parliament. And who talks about it? He's untouchable. And not only that, he also has his hand fully in SARS to manage his taxation.
Because he used to be at SARS. He used to
we are going to be having a very interesting post-Ramaphosa conferencing of accounting for all these things. I am sorry, Ntate Gwede Mantashe, you are in the same basket because you are sitting on the mining space right now. I'm sorry for Begitele because you are also managing the police issues and the crime stuff. I'm sorry for the prosecutors that are being elected. I feel sorry for Zondo himself. They are going to be put in one big bag. And the country of 52 million cannot be held ransom by a handful of people who are holding the country ransom. And I don't say this only for South Africa. I say this for Zimbabwe. I say this for Malawi. I say this for... The new generation of Africans that you have are no longer the docile mine workers of 1960. Yes, bus. Yes, bus. Yes, bus. The yes, bus era has just passed by. They will need to deal, not with me, they will need to deal with young people. When you say Nelson Mandela, the young boy will ask you, who is Mandela? I don't know Mandela for nothing. And when you deal with young people like that who have no clue as to what are you talking about, the anger of the young people will spill into the countries become ungovernable because leaders become irresponsible. They don't become irresponsible only because they're irresponsible, but they are negligent to the basic needs of the community. A hungry stomach knows no politics. Right now, let's get hungry. Let's get hungry and tell me order.
Let's discuss communism and capitalism and socialism while you're hungry.
There's order, please. Order when there's food there. That's why you have stampedes, where people will run on top of each other to access what they want. And if you don't hear me now, maybe you'll hear me later.
I asked a question about what is an African, and in that question, I'd like to also ask, who does Africa belong to? Who does land? Who does land as a general concept belong to? And what is an African?
Any man who sells land is a criminal. Anyone. Because no one has the first receipt of where they bought it from. Africans is it where we don't own our land. Our land owns us. From it we came, to it we shall return. The background is that when the Europeans came here and they said they wanted land, the African says, oh, really? You want land? There is it. Because in our heads, we never thought that land could be put in a briefcase.
It's abundance. Land
and
is
someone
available.
jumps in a boat or in an aeroplane and flies away with our land.
Yes.
But what the African did not understand is that by giving me a piece of land, in the backdrop of our ignorance, legislative frameworks were being structured to ownership of land. Laws were being written down. You gave me the piece of land, next thing we saw were wires being put around this land. all of a sudden you can't access your grandfather's graves. You can't access the river, but you said it's mine.
No thoroughfare.
And then policemen are coming around.
Yes.
Then your cattle have come onto my land. I'm confiscating them systematically. We were duped into thinking that the usage of land would remain communal.
Yes.
We did not know that it will move into a capitalistic sort of space.
Private property rights is a very big one that a lot of the beneficiaries of colonialism love quoting in the Constitution.
Who is the African? The African is not a geographical location in as much as it is. Who is the African? The African is the one who is allowed to practice and live in Africa in connection with his culture and practice self-actualization using his resources to the best of his ability and not become a footnote on the historical storyline of the colonialist, but become the subject matter of that storyline. So being African is not complexion. Being African is a mindset, solving our problems using both African indigenous knowledge systems, creating parallel systems to the capitalistic system and allowing our people to have access. It saddens me that even at this day, we cannot be talking about Africa Union having an Africa Union Bank. Where all these countries, we borrow money from ourselves. Africa Union National Army. Silence the genocide in Congo, which is going on as I'm talking to you right now.
That is correct.
You know, silencing all these wars that are happening,
Somalia,
protecting our borders.
Ethiopia, Cameroon,
Congo.
deaths,
Africa-
Sudan.
Africa is in flames. And
Constantly.
people are taking pictures with Xi Jinping. People are taking pictures with... we are talking about BRICS here.
They're
BRICS,
visiting leaders of Russia and Ukraine.
BRICS, this, BRICS my foot. We needed Africs, our own form of consolidation of our money. Why is it that we only unite when we go to India and we go to Russia and we cannot unite on the ground? And by the way, the GDP of Africa on its own is bigger than BRICS. In all honesty, when it comes to resources, manpower, natural resources, and money itself. So again, we need our national army. We need to supervise our borders, our own aviation. We need to consolidate our educational system. I don't know these guys who are running these systems, if they need to come to, let me be arrogant. They need to come to me for school. I know that sounds very arrogant. They need to come for school and we can come with just a 5-year plan. I hear the Africa Union story. I hear the whole Pan-African story. But something that is lacking is the how part. What is it that Africa Union must do? We need a bank, we need an army, we need education. If we, for example, just remove the borders only, I did a research the other day, $3 billion will start running from border to border on the African continent for free, just by doing policy change. I'm not saying...
Not removing the borders, but
Don't remove
changing
the
the
borders.
policies for free trade.
Just allow Africans to move goods. Those who want pounded yam from Uganda, the Ugandans here can simply make a call to Uganda and say, hey, bless
Buy
me.
it, sell it, let's move.
Bring pounded yam, and the truck can drive with pounded yam.
Yes.
And those who want fufu from Nigeria, fly it in. We can eat our fufu here. And those who want stuff from South Africa, just by opening borders only, without killing passports, just open the trade between borders. But all these tariffs, and by the way, this is what annoys me, Panuel. This is what annoys me, ticks me off. That we have politicians who get into power, but they don't understand the monster called the government and colonial policies that run the government, which includes immigration, business, ownership. Right now, try and open a bank. You are coming from the banking sector, I'm glad. Try and open a bank. You will need to fill in forms from here to Palaburwa. You need
many have tried and failed in
you
real
need
time.
backup system, you need monies, you need guarantees, you need sureties, you need
260 million.
which they know you won't have anywhere.
Correct.
But here's Capitec. One man-owned bank. Who talks? Who backs him up? But we understand. Here's RNB, First National Bank, owned by an individual.
What about Time Bank?
Here we go.
Black Bank.
But who talks about it?
Is Time Bank a black bank?
I'm chewing my words because you know exactly why I'm chewing my words. Because black banks for me are black owned, black shareholder, black empowering.
They invest in
And
black spaces.
if Time Bank is a black bank right now, blacks should be queuing there to go and open up accounts and function and run businesses. And again, when you open up these black banks, as you said, I don't want it to become a black bank. Yet the bureaucracy of the same colonial banks,
the South African Reserve Bank,
you're still basically dealing with the Reserve Bank here at the back.
Central Bank
but
of London.
The fronting is, okay, we have an African bank. But the forms that you must fill in, you still want guarantees. Oh, and by the way, the issue of guarantees, let me mention it. You still want guarantees. Well done. But you know that communal land and traditional land is not part. It's not insurable. And you cannot use it as surety when you come to a loan. So by saying you want sureties, what are you talking about? You're talking again to the same commercial, urban-based community.
Yes.
So it's not effective at all. And this is a nice one. You have a house in Rustenburg, right outside Marikana, that is sitting on a platinum belt. It's got these 2, 3, 4, 5 hectares. And underneath that house is maybe 50, 60, maybe 80, 100 million worth of platinum.
Dollars.
In dollars. You have a house that is in Sandton that is sitting on top of a sewage pipe. And there's nothing underneath. The man sitting on a sewage pipe can walk up to Standard Bank and get a 10 million rand loan. The man sitting on a $60 million resource cannot pick up his asset and walk up to Standard Bank and get at least 12 million to start a mining project on his own plot. And you call that is empowerment?
Capitalism or socialism have succeeded in some countries of the world who have the biggest economy, like America with capitalist economic system and China with a socialist economic system. Although capitalism have succeeded in some of the great countries in the world, it have created a big gap between the rich and the poor, as the rich keep on getting richer and the poor keep on getting poorer because they can't access capital to fund their businesses or projects due to the bureaucratic nature of the economy and lack of collateral security. While with socialism, the government always step in from time to time to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor by providing them with finance, basic amenities, and good health care, just like what is happening in the United Arab Emirates, which is a good example of a socialist state and an open market system, which has worked perfectly for them. They have also encouraged their population to be involved in their economy by making sure each investor must have a UAE citizens as a partner before their business can be approved. By doing so, they continue to empower their population to be actively involved in their economy and not to be overpowered by foreign investors. China is another example of a socialist state with a mixed market economy, comprises of their own characteristics. The growth of Chinese economy successfully serve as a proof of socialism success, since the government and the private sector are actively involved in the economy. Socialism has always has its role to play in the capitalist economy. For example, in the 2008 financial crisis, it was the government that stepped in to revive the banking sector. Even during the COVID-19 pandemic, most Western governments stepped in and gave money to their population to boost their livelihood. When we look at Africa, a typical example of a socialist state was Libya during the era of Muammar Gaddafi, where they enjoy free schooling, free healthcare, free housing, and monthly allowance being given to every citizen of Libya. And moreover, being a socialist, Libya was one of the fastest growing economy and most developed country in Africa till the fall of Muammar Gaddafi. So, if Julius Malema is talking of socialism in South Africa with South African characteristics copying from the Chinese model. It's something that can fit in Africa economic system, given the nature of our way of life. In essence, capitalism and socialism have always been used interchangeably because even countries that have claimed to be capitalist have sometimes used socialism principles to revive their economy. Meanwhile, socialism also have capitalistic ideas in their economy. So, which model to develop depends on the direction of the government of each country and how they want their population to be involved, their living standard, and how they want to shape and grow their economy. Africa, wake up. Africa, rise up. Africa without borders. Africa, continental free trade area. The time is now. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.